So anyway, so this is going to be kind of like part 3. So if anybody, which probably nobody is, but anybody that is kind of following where I'm kind of going with this, when we're talking about displaced people, oh, the displaced people, oh my, oh, and FEMA and the government and tax money and displaced people in Georgia and hurricanes and all this shit, right? All the displaced people. Okay. So, and if you're following along, I'll just reiterate real quick. So I'm pointing out the connecting the dots, like just pointing this out. Well, you've got over 1 million displaced homeless people in every city of every fucking state in this entire country, and they've been displaced. This has been going on like for fucking for decades, and nobody's ever talking about, oh my gosh, look at all these displaced people. Nobody ever is. Nobody's like, oh my gosh, it's never sexy, trendy, popular thing. But this Hurricane Helena, it's only been not even 3 weeks, it's been like a week and a half, and it's, oh my god, the displaced people, the displacement, oh no, right? On and on. And so this reminds me of a story, and this is super crazy to me because this is a real phenomenon. You can think that this stuff isn't happening, no, it cannot be possible. Mass psychosis cannot be possible, and it cannot be exposed using the barometer of homelessness. No way, this is not possible. Like anybody that doesn't understand this, you got some living to do. You're not really paying attention, Okay, so this is a story, okay, about MUFO. Anyways, it's a UFO community, and it started to grow bigger and bigger because you got all these people that are seeing UFOs. And so they're holding conferences in Sedona, Arizona, and a lot of people are showing up. And you got speakers, the experts, always the fucking experts got to, and they're telling all their things about UFOs and this and that. And so check this out. This is like a very interesting story, and it's the exact same thing that I'm talking about, and really what has happened to me. So this guy, he was really involved with this UFO community stuff. It's like big, okay? And so he's getting more and more involved. And well, actually, the interesting thing about his story is he got involved at an objective level, like from a journalist standpoint, where he didn't have really any opinion one way or another on UFOs. He just was like observing and analyzing and documenting this whole thing with this UFO group, these big groups of like people that are holding conferences and talking about UFOs. So he wasn't even really drinking the Kool-Aid. He was just there to kind of document and analyze what is this all about and stuff objectively. This is a true story, okay? I'm not so and then he's doing this for years, right? And he's weighing the different evidence. Like some of it's compelling, some of it's fucking bullshit. And so he's just this is what he's doing, okay? I mean, you can picture this. This is not outside of the realm of possibility. There was some guy who was like doing this with the MUFO or MUFO community. And they're doing, big conferences with speakers and stuff like this. And so he's investigating all of this, right? And then he started interviewing people. He started interviewing like abductees. And he started interviewing a lot of abductees. And I think at some point he really started getting into the UFO thing. He's like, dude, I've seen UFOs. I mean, sorry, I've seen them already. I've seen them. A lot of people probably have. You might even identify with me. I've seen full-on fucking UFOs in my fucking face, okay? Like, real shit, okay? Only recently, in the last, 5 years, I've seen some fucking UFO shit, okay? A lot of us have. It's not that big of a deal. It's who cares, really, honestly. But nonetheless, it's like they're UFOs to be seen. I mean, for real. Okay. So, anyways, this guy's like getting into the UFO thing too. I think he's really started like, what the fuck? He's seeing compelling evidence, and so he's like, fuck, right? And then he's interviewing abductees for posterity. And so he's like documenting it, and he's got file cabinets and files, and he's interviewing lots of abductees for his investigation and and stuff. And then it was some years later, he was still doing all this, and he was like really going back in his files and reading all these, because what he was looking for was what are common denominators in all these stories. Okay. So again, this guy's like totally objective. He doesn't have an agenda. He does not have an agenda. Like, he's trying with all of his might to be objective. And that's why he's pulling out these files and he's looking through them, and he's trying to find are there any common denominators in all these stories, so that, you can, like a scientist who's trying to, test a theory. And so he's going through and he spends a bunch of time reading all these stories, looking for common denominators. And to his surprise, he discovers this common denominator that is very common in many of these stories, abductee stories. Now, mind you, these people, they believe that they have been abducted by aliens. And so they don't really have an agenda necessarily. They might be crazy, and maybe some of them are just, whatever, like wanting to believe they got abducted. So that's why he's going through all of these stories, and he's trying to figure out what are the common denominators. And he to his own shock, and it took him years to really see this, and he was surprised that he didn't see it earlier, because he had gone through them stories many times before, all these documented stories of interviews of abductees and stuff over the years. And he realizes there is this one particular common denominator in all these stories. And he's like tripping out, like, wait a second, because what he realizes is this is like a really common theme throughout the majority of these abductee stories. It's like the same, and then here's another one, the same, another one. Like, all these stories, they all have this common denominator, generally. There might be some that don't, but generally, you read over a bunch of them, it's like, and so he realized there's this common thread, this general common thread in all these abductee stories. But then that's when he also realized that nobody is talking about this. And that's when he really was really shocked, because how is it that nobody's talking about this when it is like obvious? Because he's not the only one in the MUFO community that's doing this, that's like documenting and journaling and interviewing and observing and analyzing all of this stuff about UFOs and all these conventions and all these people with their testimonies, all this stuff. He's not the only one. There's like a lot of other big players that are doing this. And then he realizes that there is this obvious common thread in many of these abductee interviews stories. And then he realizes, once he discovers that, he realizes all of his colleagues, none of them have ever talked about it, and no one is talking about it. And he starts to get suspicious that is this some kind of cover-up? Because why isn't anybody talking about this? Like, this is insane. This is like in my fucking face. This is in your face, obvious shit. And I've been going to conferences for years, and I have like respectable colleagues in the same field, and nobody has ever talked about this. I've got colleagues that are like, have fucking 10 years or more on me, and they're not talking. Why isn't anybody talking about this when it's documented? What is the deal? So then he starts calling his colleagues, some of them, okay? And he's not pissed. He's not trying to call them out or any of this shit. He's like trying to figure out what in the fuck is going on. I'm not, this is a true story, dude. This is real. And so, you know, he calls one of them, and then they're like, they don't even want to talk about it. They're like, nope, not talking about it. Sorry. And he's like, what the fuck? And so then that's like other people. People don't want to talk about it. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And he's getting more creeped out. And like, this is looking like a massive cover up. Like, these guys are supposed to be experts in the whole field of UFO shit and stuff. And they're not talking about this obvious thing. And when he calls to ask them why, they're like hanging up on him or saying, hey, bro, I'm not talking about that. I'm sorry. You know, that's one thing I won't be talking about. Sorry. You know. And so then he finally reaches a colleague or two that they're like, oh, they're like, well, yeah, no, you know, you're right. This is true. Where they had to admit, yes, this is, we've already discovered this, you know, this common denominator. We've already connected the dots. There are a lot of people that already know this. And this is like a dirty secret. Like, nobody wants to talk about it. And it's like, what? I thought we were all here for the same reason. Like, why, if we're all here to try to find out the truth about UFOs and abductees and abductions and stuff, why would the whole community sweep this under the rug? And he said, well, the people, anybody that actually does point this out, they immediately get blacklisted from the community. Like, nobody takes them seriously, and they get, you know, they get taken out. You know, probably not murdered, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were people that actually did. You know, rare cases where somebody who is like, what the fuck, and really pushing it. But that's what one of these highly respected colleagues that in the field of this research said, that anybody that points that out, they just get blacklisted. They're fucking excommunicated, and they're never seen again. Their careers are ruined, and la-di-da-di-da. Okay? And this is a true story, because this is the thing about this. And I'm not saying this to try to, for no other reason than I'm just telling the story. Which it is a true story, I know. I know it is. I know it is. So the common denominator that was in the majority of these abductee interview stories is that these people that are getting abducted and they're getting fucking supposedly raped and tortured by aliens, and they're in such fear and shock and stuff like this, they start crying out to Jesus. Like, you know, they may not even necessarily be religious or whatever, but they're like it's a last ditch effort. Like, by all appearances, they're getting raped and abducted by demons and tortured and raped by demons. And so they remember, they went to church when they were a kid. And so they start calling out to Jesus. And as soon as they start calling out to Jesus, man, them aliens just like disappear. They're like, fuck this. They fucking, they slip out the back and they're fucking gone. And then they're free. And these abductee stories, like masses of them, it was like a very glaring detail in all these abductee stories is whenever they started calling out to Jesus because they were getting fucking, tortured and raped by aliens that look like demons and shit. As soon as they started calling out to Jesus and praying and stuff or whatever, no matter how religious they may have or not been, the torment would stop. And so the reason that this got swept under the rug is obvious, because of the stigma of Jesus, the stigma of religion, and all this stigma. You see, the truth has to be number one. So, like, if you don't believe in the Bible, but you believe in the truth, and by seeking the truth, you start to realize that the Bible, then if that's where the truth leads you, that's where you got to go. If you really serious about the truth. And I mean, I'm just using the Bible as an example. Let's say it's the Buddhist Bible or something. If the Buddhist Bible is really where the truth is really going, then that's where you got to go. You know, and if you're a Christian but the truth is leading you to like Buddhism or atheism, then you gotta, do you want the truth or what, or not? And so this is how all these ufologists they're all about the truth about UFOs, and they're trying to be as objective and scientific as possible, and they're trying to follow the truth. But as soon as it like starts to enter into religion, for whatever reason that the word Jesus was supposedly, what does it matter? Because that's the truth. That's all these I have these fucking file cabinets full of abductee stories, and like 65% of them in the interview, they said they started calling out to Jesus while their butt was getting raped with an alien probe, and as soon as they started calling out to Jesus, the probe came out of their butt and the alien took off running like a motherfucker, you know? I mean, who cares? If that's the truth, who cares? Because isn't that what it's about? The truth? Isn't that what it's about? Like, why sweep that under the rug? Like it's some kind of dirty secret that, oh, we can't talk about that. Well, that's exactly what the fucking whole UFO community did. They discovered that was the truth about abductee stories. That like 75% of them, when the people started crying for Jesus, because they were afraid because they were getting their butt raped with the alien probe by some gray alien or something. As soon as they started calling out to Jesus, the gray alien took off running and left the probe vibrator just sitting there. I mean, this is just the common denominator in these stories. Who cares? Like that, if that's the truth, if that is the truth according to the documents, that these are what the documents show. Whether or not, who knows how many of those stories are true, we don't know. These are all all the interviews of all the abductee interviews we have. And we've got a file cabinets full of them. We don't know how many of them are true or not. We just took them all and put them together. We went through them all, and we're not certain how many of them are true or not, but for some reason, 65% of these stories, they all say while they were getting their butts probed by the gray aliens, as soon as they started calling out to Jesus, the fucking gray aliens took off running. And the abductee was free from their abduction. So, why collect all that evidence and then just sweep it under the rug? Because it doesn't say what you want it to say. Is that why? So if the truth or whatever it is, it doesn't comport or whatever to your fucking narrative or what you want it to be, then you just sweep it under the rug and, oh no, we didn't, nothing, it's nothing, don't look there. There's no need to look there, So this long story I'm talking about is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about homelessness. Like displaced homeless people in every fucking city of every major city of every fucking state in this country. You're going to see these fucking homeless displaced people everywhere. And for some reason, nobody ever talks about that. But when Hurricane Helene comes and displaces, 2,000 people, it's number one trending on every fucking social media platform worldwide. Somebody needs to question this. What in the fuck is going on? Like that guy who, when he made that discovery, he started questioning his colleagues. Like, what the fuck is going on? He finally got an answer. One of his colleagues had enough balls and wasn't a fucking pussy and had enough balls to reluctantly admit the truth, which is, well, we don't really talk about that because, people's, ufologists' entire careers have been ruined by pointing that fact out. Really? Well, that ought to say something, right? Anyways, whatever, man.